You can either have 100 at 1 or 5 at 20. They both equal the same outcome. Coaches are always worried about more. More ain't solving your problems.
I'm just here for the ride. So here's a question, Steve, and I think this warrants conversation. As people in 2025 are trying to stand out, is there's a very real thing of following the recipe. You know, mom's gumbo stew, and I'm Korean. I don't know what the fuck gumbo stew is. You know, mom's Korean gumbo stew is going to be delicious. Do you deviate? I mean, if the right conditions exist, maybe you have a date and the person really hates gumbo, but they love Korean. And so maybe you got to change it, or maybe the opposite, right? So the question becomes, knowing that newness and change creates a lack of traction and certainty, and doing the same thing creates more certainty. When is it important for businesses, in your opinion, to worry about innovation and figuring out the next thing versus jacking with something that seems like it's
businesses should always be worrying about the next thing, innovation, iterating. Like it's a part of the process, because whatever you have right now is going to be older literally tomorrow, especially with AI today. Like things are going to evolve and change so quickly. So you need to be figuring out the new thing. But what the new thing really becomes is there's two sides of that, in my opinion, right? Okay, let's be clear. I didn't go to business school and I don't have a piece of paper that says all the stuff, but through experience, I would say that I have enough to be able to give some good guidance. And the two things we need to think about is, based upon whatever it is that I sold, in combination with whatever is happening in life today to the person that I sold something to, there is a new problem emerging or did emerge the moment they bought my thing. How do I solve that problem for them so that way they continue to be a consumer of mine, their lifetime value increases, and at the end of the day, if you do a good job, they're a happy consumer that's going to refer you and continue to buy things from you forever. And you don't have to spend more marketing to get them to buy step 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You just have to deliver on the promise you said. Like that's a big thing, number one. Now, number two, your business continues to have to deal with problems. The moment you sell somebody something, you create a problem for yourself. It's called fulfillment. It's called expectations. It's called all those components. But life is changing. AI is changing. The cost of employees is increasing. All of that stuff is changing. So you also need to figure out and evolve the things for yourself to go down the road of solving what makes the most sense for the business as well. Hopefully you can run parallel, and what's good for the business and what's good for your consumer. Step 1, cool, they match up. Step 2, they also match up. Step 3, they also match up. And at the end of the day, that's where you create an amazing synergistic business that ends up producing amazing things, amazing solutions to problems for consumers by going down that road and thoughtfully innovating. But if you're not thoughtfully innovating, and the only thing you wake up every single morning and say, how do I make more money? At some point in time, that parallel starts to become further and further apart, and your people don't love you as much, and you're not solving problems for them. You're only solving problems for yourself.
Yeah. And you know, for those of you that are listening and you wonder where some of this is coming from, we have a whole episode on profits versus people. And I think that that's a core element of a cornerstone of innovation. And so, you know, when we talk about, well, when should we do this thing? When should we change? When should we evolve? And how does that evolution happen? Is it from something that currently exists, or is it something brand new? That's effectively what the innovation conversation is. And there's a lot of different processes to go about innovating. And in fact, there was the guy that was a VP and a chairman at Cirque du Soleil, human circus, wildly famous. I think they had somewhere near 50 billion in revenue per year. And when COVID came around, it shuttered them. It completely crushed them because no one could go see these shows. So the guy's going around, and this book is called Balancing Acts, by the way. But he's going around, he's trying to figure out like, how do we do this? And some company was going to buy him pennies on the dollar and all this other stuff. And he didn't want to sell. And, so they had to change how they delivered certain things. But that specific sense of innovation was more from something that had to change based upon what already existed, versus when we find that something like social media, for instance, and Zuckerberg, when he came out with Facebook, or Tom, which, by the way, shout out to Tom, because he's holding it down. No one knows what the fuck Tom's doing right now. Tom did it the right way. He exited and he disappeared, right? But MySpace, Facebook, like these things
If you had a
understood that
MySpace,
internet presented
please
an
just like this
opportunity.
video. Like just throw down real quick. I'm curious how many people
Comment
had a My, because I remember my MySpace, like
your profile
editing
song.
the background, the music, the colors, like the font, all the things. The amount of hours wasted on figuring out how to program your social media profile on a social platform that eventually died. Can't even imagine, but like it's still
Still
around,
around.
but like, come on,
Yeah.
So
Not the
anyways,
comment.
like the video if you had
Yeah.
MySpace.
What was your song? Yeah. I wouldn't know your favorite song that you guys have on MySpace. I think mine is like a Green Day.
I mean,
Actually, no, is Do
back then
You
it was
Wanna
probably a Green
Know?
Day, or I would even go down the road of like a Linkin Park. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Chester. R.I.P. Miss you, buddy. Um, but my point is that these social platforms emerged because there was a need that someone that wasn't head down grind in the weeds building something, or like in the grind of their day to day, they stepped back, they looked around, and they said, I wonder what's out there. And they followed their curiosity, which is one of the biggest important things that you can do when you're trying to innovate, or what we call, like, innovation is synonymous with creating a new avenue, creating a brand new solution, something that probably hasn't been done before, or at least done in a specific way. And it's so important for people when we're looking at AI, and when we're looking at all these things that are coming out today, that you are paying attention to what the world is doing, and you're taking that and inspiring some change in your own business. But, while the marketers in the past that we've had the pleasure of working with, um, constantly innovated on the packaging, which is something you can't innovate on, right? This is where casinos and, the bright lights and the color psychology and like all the addiction psychology that goes into that, they innovated, and they're constantly looking at stuff of how to make these games and gambling and stuff more appealing and more fulfilling and addictive, right? But that's a packaging thing. The actual experience is another thing you can innovate on, right? So when you think about being a high value coach and being a high ticket coach, which someone said it's dead in their recent social media, and they completely went the opposite way of what they used to say. And it's always good to be able to transition positions a little bit, right? So I respect that. But high ticket's dead, and I don't think that being a high ticket coach is dead, simply for the fact that I generally would consider myself a high ticket coach that does a lot of concierge coaching. And when we say high ticket, I mean, we're talking about the more things you can do to create a distinct advantage, that separate you from your other players, the more you are going to capture market share, because now you inherently do something, you satisfy a specific need. And the way I will liken innovation, and I'll kind of couch this here, is that when I was in the recon community, one of the things that you would do when you were picking out hide sites is you would pick the most unforgiving terrain and brush to navigate through, because your risk of being discovered as you're going through thorn bushes and brambles and bushes that are probably bigger than you and thicker than your wall. I remember we went through one radioactive spot, and the thorns, I shit you not, were like an inch long, and I'm in the front. And I'm like, there's no way. We had to take our packs off and throw them through the brush to try to get through something while we have MVGs on our face, and it's like 3 a.m. and we're all fucking hungry and cold and tired, and we're just so mad. But my point is that you want to pick the path less trodden, and usually those are going to be the harder ones. You're going to have to be okay with the discomfort of the uncertainty, and that's why a lot of people either don't succeed in their businesses, or don't account for a lot of things that are unforeseen, and they're not adaptive enough to figure those out. And those are really important things when you're innovating, is that you have a clear idea, clear vision, you're resilient enough to figure it out, and you can problem solve and critically think through the things that are coming up and stopping you. So those are just some thoughts that I've had around innovation, and basically the R&D background that I would say is probably my biggest strength. So Steve, what about you? When you think about innovating and bringing
Well,
something
and
new to the
you said
table, like what's
something
your
there
process?
too, like the idea of high ticket coaching is dead, right? And I think the actual right way to position this is the idea of selling something for multiple of thousands of dollars to somebody who has no idea who you are, what you do, and true problems you solve on the internet without a ton of interaction is the thing that's actually dead. But selling things that are quote unquote high ticket expensive, and for everybody that
Mm-hmm.
number is different, I don't think is dead at
Mm-hmm.
all. I think it just now means
Yeah.
you actually have to kind of give a shit about the person you're selling something to, and they need to feel that because they've bought things in the past that haven't been fulfilled on,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's what I'll throw there.
Yeah.
Just relying on your direct response marketing skills and some fancy posts and things like that isn't going to be the thing that wins over and grows your business. But when you still got to
You have to
post,
post
but
though,
that's a
right?
piece of the process, and it's not going to get somebody to do the thing anymore because everybody's so used to that. Like I had somebody message me this morning saying, "Hey man, happy New Year. Hope you're well. Was wondering if you'd be willing to spend 30 minutes with me, just kind of walking through some Chat GPT stuff. Oh, by the way, do you have any YouTube channel I can follow so I can learn more?" And I'm like, I met this guy 2 months ago at a options trading event down in Miami where we exchanged 50 words with each other at most. And now he's just reaching out and it's like, "Hey man, I just want to follow you and learn more from you." That didn't happen because I threw a landing page at him and spent ad spend and talked about how I almost died in all of these things in my posts. It actually happened because I gave him true, authentic connection that gave him some value and he remembered me. Right. And there's the saying, it's not about what you know, but it's also not about who you know. It truly is about who knows you. So get out there and create connections. But in terms of the reality of innovation, you have to innovate. Like if you're not innovating, you are dying. It is factually speaking what has to happen. And going down that innovation road is going to be challenging. It should be challenging. Otherwise, it's not going to be worth it on the other side of it. And if you want people to continue to buy things from you, the next logical thing in line, you got to put something new together, truly new. Don't call some old shit 2.0. Don't call something old new. Don't repackage it and put a new bundle together. Spend the time to learn a thing and then go and take that and repackage your new learnings into something that can now teach somebody else the thing that you learned. But the main goal is instead of you might spend 20, 40, 100 hours learning that concept and learning that skill. Can you now, instead of spending 20, give it to somebody else in 10? Can you, instead of 40, give it to somebody else in 15 or 20? Instead of 100, can you give it to them in 40? That's the thing. People will pay to save time, especially if they trust you and they know that you're delivering something to them that's going to help. Like, hey, you want to lose weight faster? Proven? Guess what? They did that a few years ago. Everybody's buying it now. And oh, by the way, I think last year was the first year or 2 years ago was the first year in like history of America we actually got lighter overall versus not. Like whether you like GLP-1s or not, it's solving a problem. Now, again, you buy something, you create another problem. So it's creating a different issue. But the specific thing at hand, I want to lose weight easily and more quickly. Everybody's buying it. Do the same thing and people will buy it. And that's a good thing. It's a great thing. And that's why innovation has to exist.
Mm-hmm.
Deep thought over there, Andrew. Deep thoughts. Deep thoughts.
Well, it's just kind of like weighing out the cost of innovation. Everything's going to
Yeah.
cost something, and there's always an inherent trade-off. And you said something that I was trying to remember, and then it just disappeared because you said it earlier. I was like, write it down. And then I was watching you, and then I was like, fuck, I didn't write it down. Oh. Guys, for those of you that are late, here's some behind the scenes stuff. So if you stuck around this long, thank you. Here's behind the scenes. Like I write thoughts down on sticky notes, and
Well, it's fair
that's how
because
I
like
kind of keep
you
track of
mentioned the
what I'm
thing
going to
about high
say.
ticket coaching.
Um,
I didn't hear anything else you said after that because I needed to retain that one thing because I wanted to say something about it, but I didn't want to interrupt you. So I hope what you spoke about during that 78-minute block was valuable for everybody. So
well, I mean, it's, everything's people, if they're solving the problem, if they already have their own problem awareness and this is helpful for them, then it'll solve something for them, or like at least shake something loose. But one thing you need to keep in mind as you're figuring out how to do these things is that it takes experience and it's expensive. Innovation isn't cheap. And when I say that, this is why you have to continuously learn. And this is the whole premise of innovation is doing something new or different, which requires you to look and take in a process called synthesis. And it's one of the most challenging things. And I still struggle with it. And I first came across it as like going through my early PhD program, is that the way you have to write when you're going for a PhD is that you can't just analyze something. You can't just sit there and be like, oh, well, this is what all these people are saying. Like that's considered a lower level of thought when it comes to academic writing. So in order to like, okay, this is what everything is saying, so what? And there's always a question of so what, so what, so what? And so that's why when you think about innovation, it requires, and it's really the highest form of expression and creativity, is that you have to look at all this stuff and you also have to combine both left and right brain of analyze and then create something. And so that requires you to expose yourself to different experiences. And this is why you find some of the most creative people will oftentimes stop working, which is why it's important for you to take downtime and go and do different experiences and go see service delivery in a different area, go see it in a different industry. Go look at how servers at a very high-end restaurant will interact with their clientele. And it's really interesting because when you notice the difference between them and the difference between someone brand new at, some other chain restaurant, um, they literally serve you and then they disappear. They contribute to the experience. They are not the experience. And that's a very different thing when we talk about content and marketing and how you can help people see themselves as successful versus seeing you as successful. And that's really important when we're talking about narratives and storytelling. If you want to elicit someone to be like, wow, I can see myself in that specific situation, as a hand raise, right? And now there's this bridge series of internal conversations. And that's where they say, like, hey, listen, I want to grab some time with you because I want what you have. And that's why things like sex, money, like things that are always going to be a foundational thing of the human existence, that's what draws people in, is because people generally want more of those things. And so innovation is a little bit easier, but when you're having to overcome objections and basically people's paradigms and the way people think, it's a very different, you need to innovate on the packaging at that point and the service delivery. And if you do those two things, that's how you become more valuable. And that's how you do become a high ticket coach, which, I mean, let's be honest, when everyone didn't know what the fuck to do as a coach, but they were selling themselves as a high ticket coach, that's what ruined the industry, or at least one of the things. And that's a soapbox that I'll die on. Not to say that people weren't high ticket, but if you've been coaching for less than 3 years, I would say that you're probably not a high ticket coach unless you've continuously innovated and you've played around and you've delivered 40 hours of experience repeatedly for at least 50 weeks. Like it
you
takes
just
a little bit of time to get there.
you
So,
got to be
you got
able
to
to
cut your teeth.
provide
And I
the
think people
result,
skipped it.
right? You and I build things, and on the other side of that building of something, it's always the all right, cool, we're going to charge this dollar amount. Is the value that somebody's getting out of this at least 10
Mm-hmm.
times more? Like simple and easy. You want to come and buy
Mm-hmm.
buy something for $1 from us? Our goal is to make sure you get $10 back. 100%. If you $100,
Yeah.
we want you to get $1,000 back. Is it always every single time going to happen? Absolutely not. But is it going to happen 20 times once in a while as well? Absolutely. So, on average, that is always the goal. That's the mission. We're going to put
Mm-hmm.
something together, and it's about saving you time, saving you money, affording you the opportunity to go make more money, making life easier, like just a bunch of things. And that's really what it needs to be about. And for you with your clients, the same thing. And listen, when you change and update your systems on the back end and how
Mm-hmm.
you deliver the thing, whatever it might be, guess what? That's a great thing. Update it for everybody. Doesn't mean you have to charge more for the existing people, but the new people coming in, man, I've proven that I now go from getting results or spending this much time or whatever it may be, and you shorten that time frame, your services just got more valuable. And you need to understand your feedback and all those components. But Listen, short and sweet today, gang. Short and sweet. We just had to get some things off of our chest. Selling somebody to an existing consumer is significantly better for you and them than always finding new consumers to buy the thing. Okay? Some of the perceived most influential, smartest people in business these days even get that wrong. So we're here to tell you, continue building out those service roadmaps. If you need help with any of that stuff, we have some resources. Reach out. Those things are important beyond belief to your consumer and to your business. Andrew, I feel like you should close this out today, bud.
I mean, I will always be an innovator, and just I love to create new things and test it. And, if that's an interesting thing to you, which, by the way, like, these topics might shake out different things. I think that coaching is a gateway career. And if you can't make the money that you want to make, there was a skill lacking somewhere in there, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, whether it's fulfillment, whether it's coaching, whether it's how to continue to upskill and up-level yourself so that we can charge more and feel confident doing that. But I think at the end of the day, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And so the idea is, how do you make progressive change in a way? And I don't say progressive like from the politically correct fashion, because personally, I think that's one of the worst things that ever happened to people's communication styles. You have to be able to get out there and just try new things. And not to say that you should go out there and be a free spirit and go, do peyote and come up with some spirit visions and go build something for 48 hours. Forget it. You need to be meticulous with collecting the information to determine, is this the thing that you want to see continue? Is it moving in the right direction? And the scariest part is the first step, because you have no idea. You have to just throw it out there and see. But you do need to commit for usually a period of about 3 months with something new, and kind of see where it works and where it doesn't work. And if you pay attention to what people around you are doing, and you do that thing but better or different, like, you'll have a higher chance of success. So that's what I'll say about innovation. And that's all we got for today. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, please smash that subscribe button. That's one of the ways that we can always make sure that we are growing. Smash it. I was like, oh man, I've seen Steve throw that finger once before. Man, it was aggressive. It was not. So make sure you smash that subscribe button. And also, if you found that this was helpful, please share it. We asked you guys to comment your favorite MySpace song below, so we hope that you get to do that, so we get to know a little bit more about
if you had a
MySpace.
Like it if you had a MySpace.
Like it if you had a MySpace. So with all that to say, thank you so much for joining us for the journey. It's an absolute pleasure to get to kick it with Steve, and you guys as our subscribers make that stuff possible, and we appreciate the fact that you value the things that we share, because that creates fulfillment for us. So with all that to say, let's make it a great year, and we'll see you next time.